I am a staunch supporter of the reform of United Nations, because veto powers there are absolute veto powers, and United Nations are non-operative, if I may say.
Paralyzed, yeah.
Paralyzed. And this is why I think, despite the fact that deep down in my soul, I do know that it looks like mission impossible today to reform the veto powers, because all the P5 countries would have to say yes. But do we have to stop talking about it? No, I never do that. You know, my modus operandi, being a president, is if you're quiet, nothing will happen. But if you do speak about the problematic topics, if you are vocal about that, then you give this topic a possibility that something is going to change. And to reform the UN Charter, I think that the veto powers are the most important points of the UN Charter to be reformed. For example, you know, China is pragmatic in using veto. Russia and United States, sorry guys to say, they both have blood on their hands when they use a veto when we discuss mass atrocities and genocides. France and United Kingdom didn't use the veto power since 1986, not a single time after that. But we have to start discussing this. Pure legal hygiene is that the country who's on the table of Security Council would not have the right to vote. Don't vote about yourself. And I would prohibit veto when we discuss mass atrocities and genocide. So that's the future. I mean, we have to start debating this. And in all democratic countries where you do know the veto powers, it's not an absolute power, it's a relative power. Another body has to decide if somebody uses veto. So that's my legal soul is speaking. If we are really vocal about what Russia is doing, being an aggressor, violating the UN Charter, are we so loud and clear in other conflicts around this planet? I'm pretty sure you do know there are currently 69 armed conflicts around the globe, which is the highest number after the Second World War. Is that what we want? To be quiet? And also, United States of America are the allies of European Union, also of Slovenia. But are we honest enough to President Trump to say to him, sorry, this is not the right path you are taking? How many people do you see, how many presidents, prime ministers do you hear being vocal about Trump's aspirations for Greenland, for Panama, for Canada? I know that we are allies, but we have to be honest to each other. That's what I want to see. Alex, I would love you to go and play hockey with President Putin. I mean, we have to open a dialogue with the enemy as well. You're smart enough. You are. And I mean, I envy you the knowledge that you do possess because you're long in politics. You know what's at stake. But what are we doing in European Union? Is anybody discussing the possible solution, not only because of Ukraine, Slovenia is a staunch supporter for Ukraine, don't get me wrong, but are we discussing the solutions with the enemy? No, we are not. And that's also the problem.
So we should talk to Russia as Europeans.
You know, when I was at the Peace Conference in Switzerland a year and a half ago, Alex, I think you were not a president. We've met there for the first time. You were just elected. Yeah. I think I was the only one who said, what kind of a peace conference for Ukraine we have here in Switzerland without Russia being present? And I said also, China should be present. And what we are facing today, the peace talks started without Ukraine being present and without European Union being present. The security of Ukraine is the security of Europe. And the open dialogue is what we have to do. If we are going to turn to blocks again, we are on the edge of the Third World War, or the Cold War. You know, sometimes I ask myself, how low can we go? Following what Antonio Guterres, as a Secretary General, is doing in United Nations. And he's a persona non grata in Israel. He's seen as a problem, but is he doing anything wrong? He's fighting for human rights. He's talking about the genocide in Palestine. He's fighting for women's rights. But did we really reach this level that a person who does that is a problem? This is, also kind of a problem for us, being quiet.